Hello, welcome in everybody. In this video, I will be proving that everybody's link is foreign and as well disproving the iconography of Darwin's evolution theory chart, or the chart that's posted pretty much in every science room, at least when I was going to school. So we will begin with migration. The concept of migration. Why this is important is because migration, or the lack of migration within different cultures and different civilizations, was kind of utilized as a vector to note in European history, and as well as some systems of classification, like to note whether a human civilization from specific regions were civilized or not. This is the vector that Europeans decided to utilize. And I'll basically be walking y'all through a little crash course of, the human history of our human family. If you're a creationalist, don't skip the video because it might actually show some things that you had in the back of your head, regardless of your religion, or after all, maybe, because I'm aware that there's creationalists who don't subscribe to religion. So here we go. So the beginnings of civilization and evolution is just adaptations. It's not anything too deeply crazy. Like we define even the word human through lenses of anthropology, archaeology, biology, and different cultures have different milestones they value. Let's jump into it. So early hominids, 6 to 7 million years ago. These are the close relatives of chimpanzees, bamboos, around 6 to 7 million years ago. And they're basically found in Chad, Kenya, and Ethiopia. There's different types of species, obviously, and then it spans to genus Homo, which is 2 to 3 million years ago. And this is important because each kind of has its own broader personality that was noted by human beings. And as more skulls and fossils emerge, we're actually finding different subsects of the genus Homo. So Homo habilis, 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago, they used stone tools, and Homo erectus, 1.9 million to 110,000 years ago, and they were the first to migrate out of Africa, use fire, and develop more advanced tools. There's Homo heidelbergensis. This is 700,000 to 200,000 years ago, a likely ancestor of both Neanderthals and human beings, or modern humans. So Homo sapiens, this came later, but the oldest fossil of a Homo sapien was found within Africa, again, 300,000 years ago in Jebel, Morocco. It was a skull. So later, as archaeologists found these remnants, they started observing behavior cues that would symbolize modernity. So symbolic thought, art, complex tools, and culture. So 110 years ago, they found orca pigments and shell beads in South Africa. And then 50,000 to 70,000 years ago, they found cave art in Indonesia, and trading routes as well as advanced tools. So the first group of beings to migrate out of Africa were Homo sapiens, and they utilized the Leviathan, the land bridge between Africa and Eurasia, which had great climate, flora, and fauna. The first expeditions, the first actual fossils were found in Palestine, and this is the oldest Homo sapien fossil out of Africa. This is dated to 177,000 to 194 years ago, and it predates previous estimates, which were only 60,000 years ago. And then other fossils were found. And this is the crux, which is really important because this was the first expedition out of Africa, but also it showed something really interesting. So this was found in Sukkot and Kafasa caves in Palestine, and fossils here date to 90,000 to 120 years old, showing early humans, early Homo sapiens out of Africa, intermingling and mixing with Neanderthals. At that time, Neanderthals did not go extinct, but Neanderthals are the most recent of the Homo group, and as well, they died off / went extinct pretty quickly. Let me find the time period that Neanderthals lived to. So Neanderthals lived from 400,000 years ago, and they went extinct a little later, but they were first to go extinct because we also have the Denisovans and the Homo florescens. So the Denisovans existed 400,000 to 30,000 years ago in Asia, and they are a representative of that another cradle of humanity that later emerged. Actually, mixing with them came a little later, but they outlived this group that, some became mixed with Homo sapiens, some didn't, outlived the Neanderthal group. Oh, it does show the time period. So for Neanderthals, it was 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. So that's the time span they lived. And for the Denisovans, it was 400 to 30,000 years ago within Asia. So the other one, Hobbit or Homo florescens, it was 100,000 to 50,000 years ago in Indonesia, and Homo naledi, which is 300,000 to 200,000 years ago. So they didn't live that long. They only lived 100,000 years, and they were found in South Africa. And in the notes, it shows that, many more are yet to be discovered. So that's the cool part. So in this Leviathan cradle, it showed that the Homo sapiens coming fresh from Africa did mix with Neanderthals, which created a whole new subsect before the Neanderthals even went extinct. So this land bridge allowed a lot of things. It was a lush region, and it allowed humans, those who were Homo sapien and those who were hybridized with Neanderthal, to travel northward. These fossils aren't just old bones, they're proof that migration is in our DNA, all of our DNA. So the first humans to live or to leave Africa didn't just thrive outside didn't just survive out of the continent, they thrived, adapted, and hybridized, setting the stage for every diaspora. So the mixture of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals brought survival in colder climates, because the firewall a lot of Homo sapiens were experiencing whilst traveling northwards was the climate change. Like there were previous fossils of attempted expeditions that weren't successful, that weren't quite as successful, and a part of that success could be attributed to hybridizing and mixing with the Neanderthals, which allowed those humans to set their eyes on more sites, but it's not indicative of better mutations, better adaptations, better evolution. It was just a hybridization that made a new group. Every hybridized group and every original group has its key assets and strengths, because the Devonish also were mated with Homo sapiens, and obviously their body just adapted to whichever cradle they were in. So yeah, that's the cool part, and there's no single moment where people became humans, really, because evolution is gradual and sometimes a messy process, because some mutations ended up being adaptations and some mutations just ended up being mutations that weren't helpful, and some groups ended up facing dead ends and were at risk of going extinct. So being that we as Homo sapiens are a young species, I think this gives us more clarity on just the whole human family. And migration being a technology wasn't just blocked off to certain groups, because sometimes in science, at least when I was going to school, they kind of try to make it seem like that, and that's not the case, as you can see and as you can observe. So Homo sapiens that were hybridized also did mate with the Nevisians, but that was much later. So all these groups ended up intermingling one way or another, and I think it's pretty cool, because our genetics are diverse, and there's no reason why we should limit that or discontinue that, because those adaptations were made in way harsher and adverse climates than we experience today. Therefore, the DNA is much richer, and we should do everything to further our own flora, as we are also furthering the flora of Mother Earth, because we share one planet. And isn't it ironic that the first expeditions of Homo sapiens, who were, as you can say, African, made their way to Palestine? And Palestinians have shown that they're great stewards of their land, and they took great care of their land just for it to get blown up. They're not the only group, but they're one of the more recent groups, as well as groups in Africa and all over the world. So yeah, I just thought to bring this story to y'all, whether you're evolutionist, whether you are a creationalist. The evolution theory chart was not based on race. As well, Charles Darwin proved this much later. A lot of people like to say that, oh, but he said that he made the chart with that intention. You can find articles of himself saying that he does not believe that, and he disproved that. There was a point where he might have subscribed to that frame of thought, but before he died, he made sure to make it clear that he did not think that. So just some food for thought, and y'all let me know what y'all think about that, and what you want me to make more videos on, because we're heading to Web 4, we're heading to so many evolutions of even technology, and I'm curious to know what y'all think about that as well, further than just our human biology, So yeah, peace.